Hey, hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk on the topic Tryst of Scrum with user experience. I'm sure many of you have experienced these kind of situations or have been part of such conversations at your workplace, where UX designers and software engineers try to separate themselves from each other, building walls between them and probably would like to work in silos, despite of the fact that they are developing the same product for the same customer. Do you ever wonder how to leverage Scrum with user experience? How can the UX people and engineers collaborate in the same sprint without user experience working one design sprint ahead? How they better work together to balance both discovery and delivery work? Should learning become the first class citizen? Should learning be prioritized over delivery work? In this session, let us together explore and try to address similar situations and concerns. Let me first quickly touch upon what is Scrum Framework. Scrum is a lightweight framework within which people can address complex adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. Scrum is founded on empiricism and lean thinking. Empiricism asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is observed. Whereas lean thinking, which is an integral part of Scrum, reduces waste and focuses on the essentials. Three key accountabilities in Scrum framework. Number one, product owner. Number two, developers. Number three, Scrum masters. Scrum provides five formal events, namely sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, and the sprint in itself, which is a container event for rest of the events. Each of these events in Scrum is a formal opportunity to inspect and adapt. Success of these events depends upon the application of Scrum pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Scrum provides with three artifacts: product backlog, product goals is a commitment for product backlog. Number two, sprint backlog. Sprint goal is a commitment for sprint backlog. And number three, increment with DOD as its commitment. DOD means definition of done. The Scrum framework is purposefully left incomplete, only defining the parts required to implement Scrum theory. Scrum is built upon by the collective intelligence of the people using it. Rather than providing people with detailed instructions, the rules of Scrum guide their relationships and interactions. Various processes, techniques, and methods can be employed within the framework. Scrum make visible the relative efficacy of current management, environment, and work techniques so that improvements can be made. So this was a brief summary of Scrum framework for you. Now let me quickly touch upon what is user experience. User experience is the total experience of a user, whether intended or not. And it is very important to understand whether intended or not. This includes the user's workflow, the data appearing on a screen, and when the data is appearing. So, what kind of data is appearing and when it is appearing is also important. It also includes the order and structure of the data, how multiple screens fit together cohesively, and ultimately how the tools succeed or fail. Many professionals work in user experience, including designers, product owners, engineers, marketers, and copywriters, etc. Virtually the entire value stream is responsible for user experience design. Now, what is user interface? UI is the set of technical elements on a screen or other interface. UI is an important part of an overall UX strategy. So basically, UX design is a mindset as well as a practice. The design process is an example of strategic cross functional collaboration. Many groups across the value stream are invested in the design process, including senior leadership, product leadership, marketing, sales, and more. Design is not only a designer's job, it is also how teams think about making software from start to finish. Well designed software is user centric, empathetic, and engaging. So basically, as part of Lean UX, we leverage the cycle of build, measure, and learn early and often, while continuously evaluating desirability, feasibility, and viability of the product or the ideas that we have. The most important aspect of a user experience is that the learning becomes a first class citizen and helps us in making right decision proactively and preemptively. Lean UX is a practice of bringing the true nature of product to light faster in a collaborative cross-functional manner. It allows us to build shared understanding of the customer, their needs, our proposed solutions, and the definition of success. We prioritize learning over delivery to build evidence for our decisions. But how can we actually do it? Let us explore. In order to achieve that, there are various approaches, tools, and templates available in the market. I prefer to use the simple Lean UX canvas, where first of all, we try to explore the problem statement. We define the problem statement. The entire team defines the problem statement, and we can leverage design thinking heavily here. Then we talk about the business outcome. We define business outcomes that we want to achieve. We write how we will come to know that we have solved the problem, how we will measure it. Let's say, for example, we can say increased requisition via referrals by 10% or increased revenue by 20% in next quarter. Once the problem statement is defined and we talked about the business outcomes, then we explore user personas. We call them proto personas of users. We write their demographics, pains, gains, needs, etc. Then we talk about the user outcome and user benefits. Here we actually write our users outcome and benefit in terms of would our user seek out a product or service that we are offering? What benefit would they gain from using it? What behavioral change can we observe that tells us that our users have achieved their goals? After this, now the content from box 1, 2, 3, which is your business problem, business outcome, user proto persona, and your user outcomes and benefits. This will come as an input towards preparing the solution. We can call them as paper prototyping. So, previous assumptions, now till now, everything is an assumption because we have validated nothing in the market. So, these are all our assumptions. All these four assumptions goes as an input to box number 5, which is your solution, that's where we prepare the wireframe or we do paper prototyping. We create solution here. We actually write what can we make that will solve our business problem and meet the needs of our customer at the same time. We write product feature or enhancement ideas here. It is important to keep in mind that till now, whatever we have written here is just an assumption. Now, all these assumptions will go as input to make or prepare your hypothesis. We define the hypothesis. Each of the hypothesis is associated with a feature. Then, once we have defined the hypothesis, now for each of the hypothesis, we identify the most riskiest assumption that will cause the entire idea to fail if it's wrong. Once this is done, We write what is the least amount of work we need to learn the next most important thing. Here we design experiments to learn as fast as we can whether your riskiest assumption is true or false. That's how we validate our assumptions. And this is very important in product discovery process. So this was lean UX canvas for you. Now let me talk about some of the similarities between Scrum and UX. Scrum talks about empiricism to reduce risk. You no longer have to predict. Whereas UX talks about evidence-based decision based on customer data. Scrum talks about value-driven approach. UX talks about customer-driven approach. Scrum talks about cross-functional teams, whereas UX talks about cross-functional collaboration. Scrum, the foundation of Scrum is transparency. The foundation of UX is shared understanding. Scrum has definition of done, whereas UX has viable design. Scrum prevails on inspection and adaptation, whereas UX prevails on sensing and responding. So while implementation details might appear a bit different, Scrum and user experience undeniably share a common foundation. So we have a lot of similarities here. Let me talk a bit about dual track agility. So here we are talking about two types of work, discovery and delivery, and one team moving together as a unit. So here we see non-sequential execution, which is the key. And here everyone pitches in regardless of individual skill specialty. So UX discovery tasks can be done simultaneously with other product backlog item work like coding, testing, etc. Some user experience things can be on the definition of done and apply universally to every product backlog item. For example, adherence to the style brand guide or all features are instrumented with customer analytics. Also, every sprint must still deliver at least some valuable business functionality to prove that the user experience is as you expected and to prove to the customer that work they care about is taking place as a basis of forecasting. So, how do we manage this delivery and discovery work together within the product backlog? So, let me put it this way. Scrum works on the rule of one product backlog, and one product owner. This is the rule in Scrum. Now let's take approach one. Now we know that product backlog is single source of truth for the product and the product development team. And UX people are implicit in team. So let's talk about the first approach, where we have two separate backlogs, one containing discovery work, UX work, and the other one containing delivery work. Now look at the mindset here. We have clear separation of discovery and delivery work. Here, UX work doesn't have to interact in the Scrum process. Now, this will obviously lead to silos within the team and also to phased waterfall development, or worse, may result into separate teams. Here, in this approach, with two separate backlogs for discovery and delivery work, PO has to manage multiple backlogs. Or maybe we would need multiple POs, each managing different backlogs. Clearly, this is not a good or efficient approach. Now, let us understand the approach two. Here, we have one product backlog, and we are taking user experience work as product backlog items. So, within a single product backlog item, you will have, so we have one product backlog item with discovery work, We have another product backlog item with delivery work. So one is user story, let's say for discovery, other user story for delivery, but we are keeping a single product backlog. Now look at the mindset behind this approach. Here, user experience work can be an increment that gets inspected at the sprint review. Here, teams must manage dependencies between product backlog items, as in when discovery work is required first or validation work is required after delivering the increment. Here, some product backlog items would produce learning and some produce product increment. Here, we have this opportunity that learning becomes the first class citizen. Now, this was second approach. Now, let's look into third approach, where we have one product backlog and we are taking user experience work into product backlog items. So we have a single user story containing both discovery and delivery work. Now, obviously, we need mature and evolved teams and systems to reach to this level with more command over entire value stream. Here, focus is more on value delivery. Here, more intra-team and inter-team collaboration and cross-functional work is needed, and this provides an opportunity for an entire value stream to evolve. Team eventually swarms together to take product backlog items, including discovery and delivery work, towards completion. Now, this third approach may lead to high work in progress and work expense across multiple sprints as teams do discovery, development, and validation on each of the individual product backlog items. So, basically, no one size fit all answer here. But obviously, we know the first approach where we had separate backlogs, that is definitely not a good approach. We won't be having any concrete long term benefits out of that. Therefore, we are left with two choices: either keep one product backlog and take user experience work as product backlog item, or take user experience work into the product backlog items. For example, UX work such as delivery of a design system artifact might make sense when we can take UX work as product backlog item. Clear increments of delivery that could be inspected in the sprint review. For example, style guides, reusable cross system branded components, etc. Other example would be take user experience work such as delivery of wireframes typically makes sense when we take user experience work in product backlog items, wherein wireframes are built up in product backlog refinement or inside the sprint. So let's have a look how it will look like. For example, we are planning our sprint one and we have taken one user experience product backlog item. So here I'm taking user experience work as product backlog item, as part of which I would like to get 23 users interviewed. This is my discovery work here. And remaining work is regular feature delivery work. So how my sprint backlog will look like during the planning of sprint one. So I have to conduct 23 user interviews. So I'll create subtasks under it. Maybe in this sprint I'm taking 3 interviews to be scheduled, 3 interviews to be conducted after scheduling, and also I'm taking um, 3 interviews where I want to synthesize results also. So this is the planning. Now by the end of a sprint one, how does it look like? So let's say out of the scheduling, 3 scheduled tasks, one is in progress and 2 are being done in this sprint. So 2 interviews have been scheduled, one is in progress. Similarly, let's say one interview has, out of 2 scheduled interviews, one has been conducted. But in this sprint, I am unable to achieve any synthesization of result, which is perfectly fine. And rest of the delivery work I have done in this sprint. What I have whatever I have planned for. Now, what happens in sprint two? Now we have number of interviews scheduled, out of which few of them have been conducted, and also I've got, let's say, one result synthesized. So this discovery work is going on in progress across sprints when I'm taking user experience work as per backlog item. But in this manner, discovery work can also become the first class citizen along with delivery work. So let me quickly touch upon the user experience design evolutionary journey. So there were dark ages where a team is entirely focused on meeting the business and technology challenges without considering the user's experience at all, resulting into very less control over the value stream and very less delivery of actual value in true sense. Then we evolve further and we reach to the point where we can say we have spot UX design. Here, an emerging design leader within the team struggles to deliver products and services with improved user experience. So here we have occasional user experience projects with limited success. Then we evolve further and we reach to the point where we have UX design as a service. Here we started getting executive support to form and grow a centralized UX design team, serving as and when needed and as per their availability to other teams within the organization. Then we evolved further, and then came the evolutionary stage of embedded UX design, wherein teams bring on their own UX design capability separate from the centralized UX design team to deliver enhanced user experience. But then came much more evolved stage called the infused UX design stage. Here, non-design members of the team have developed sufficient UX design expertise too, alongside the team's UX designers delivering market-leading user experience. What triggers this final stage is when the non-designers on the team start making good quality UX design decisions. Those decisions result in outcomes that are now much better than before. UX design is a learned skill, and developers and product managers can learn it by spending close time with their team's embedded UX professionals. This where they start to pick up the basics. Over time they become design fluent themselves. This provides real benefits for the organization. The designers no longer need to approve or oversee every design decision. Designers no longer need to specify every design detail in exacting precision. Good design happens no matter who is making the decision. It takes a long time to get to this point, but the benefits are clear. The products and services the team now produces are head and shoulder better than anything the team has produced before. Now, in the same context, let me quickly touch upon the Teal evolutionary model. So, he's a wonderful person, Frederick Laloux. He has also written this amazing book called Reinventing Organization. Frederick Laloux proposed this Teal cultural evolutionary model. He talks about some organizations having primitive culture. You can think of in these organizations, culture is driven by power, fear, and chaos. Here, command and control, division of labor prevails. Then we have more evolved organizations that are driven by hierarchy, stability, and control of power. Here, process and formal rules prevails. Then we have third level of evolution, cultural evolution. In such organizations, these are driven by competition, objectives, and profit. Here, innovation, accountability, and meritocracy prevails. Then we have fourth level of evolution. In such cultures, these are driven by customer delight, shared values, and engagement. Here is stuff like culture over strategy and people empowerment prevails. But then we have much more evolved teal culture. In these cultures, these are driven by anti-fragility, sense of higher purpose, and distributed decision making. Here, wholeness, self management, and evolutionary purpose prevails. Most important thing to note here is if you get to the root of these evolved cultures, you will find learning has become the first class citizen in these cultures. So, how to start your journey? Well, you can attend a professional Scrum with user experience course offered by scrum.org. It's a wonderful course. You can attend that class. You can also refer some of the books like The Lean Startup by Eric Ries and Lean UX Series by uh, Jeff, Josh, and Laura. I really do recommend these books to start your journey. Well, that's all, folks. Thank you so much. See you soon.